phones are put away out of respect, so please don't be texting or on your phone for only 40 minutes, so I think you're all capable of that. That includes laptops as well. If you are a super shark, make sure that you update your Blackboard. You are going to need 8 points by the end of the semester, so if you don't have 8 points after this, make sure to come see me and talk to me about that. Okay? So, I'd like to welcome Dr. Amy Zach.
Hi everyone, how are y'all doing? Anybody stressed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, not really. Okay, so a little bit of background. I teach some of the psych courses in the psych, human sexuality, youth bereavement. So these are the psych courses that I teach here at Nova for 18 years. I am an alumni, two-time alumni at Nova, masters and doctorates. So I feel a little bit passionate towards you. There's a reason that I keep on coming back. So this whole course on stress is about you. The key is, obviously I'm going to lecture, but if you have a question, raise your hand, because we're here to help you out, and we're all stressed, me included. So how many of you are multitaskers? Ironic enough, most of the ladies are the ones. Guys, you're smarter. You're like, I'm just going to handle one issue at a time. So that's pretty smart. Girls, we tend to want to do more than we need to do. Sometimes we're texting and talking. How many of you do that? And how does that work for you? Good? Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of stress management, but stress is all about who you are. How many of you believe that there is no such thing as stress? Okay, well, it's a fact. There really is no such thing as stress. Stress is the way you think of a specific situation. So stress is a state of mind, your state of mind. Okay, so for the next 35 minutes, you are going to enter a stress-free zone. So I want you all to take a deep breath. Deeper. Okay, so here we go. Deep breath. Bring it in. Hold it. Let it go. And do it with your eyes closed. Close your eyes. Trust. Deep breath. And then just let it out. So for the next 35 minutes, you have nothing to worry about. There's nothing you can do. The class that you have to go to, the paper you have to write, the text that you have to send, the answer that you have, the question that you have to answer. There's nothing you can do right now for the next 35 minutes, okay? So let's talk about reality is the leading cause of stress among those in touch with it. And that was Lily Tomlin. But the reality of your reality is what makes you stress. Give me some examples of your stress at this moment in time. Yes, ma'am. Trying to get ready for them?
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you handle that? How many of you are going through you've got midterms, finals, and then we've got the holidays. So how many of you are stressed about everything you have to put in before? How many of you are graduating by December? How many are freshmen? Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Okay, so you guys are just starting. So this is your first semester. Is that correct? Okay, so now you're dealing with a couple of things that we take for granted, but it's real. How many of you have moved from another state? Over here. Okay. How many of you have left home to be on campus? How many of you are commuters? Okay. So you're talking about taking this world that you've all been used to, this comfort zone, and now you enter the world of college, and you're meeting new people. How many of you have met new people during the semester? Okay. How many of you find yourselves more in the dorm than you realized you would be, or studying? How many of you thought that it was going to be a great party time and you were going to be interactive and you were going to have a lot of friends? And I'm a college student, and all of a sudden you're more stressed about your classes and who you're meeting and if your professor likes you or if you're going to get a good grade. Right? So there's a lot of components and variables, but we take these for granted, and then we wonder why we feel stressed or why we get a cold. Interesting enough, you all lived through your midterms and your finals, and the majority of students tell me that at the end of December, once the last class hits around Christmas time, they get cold. How many of you have that experience? And what that is the body reacting to all the stress. Your body is talking to you, and you're not listening. If you experience back pain, if you experience stomach tension, if you experience breakouts, pimples, headaches, all those are your body communicating with you. They're letting you know that something is wrong, but we're not listening. Why? Because we have to do something. I'll worry about it when I'm done. But when I'm done, it just escalates. So what's going on is basically you're lying to yourself. You're lying, your body's screaming and you're ignoring it. So tell me another stressful situation that you've experienced as freshmen. One of the things that you didn't expect. You know, if you look away, I can still see you. So this is like relaxing, don't worry about it. Mr. Chairman, you're non-stressed, right? So what stresses you?
Already, girls. Friends,
girls,
classes.
they are stressful. Okay, you know, I'm going to talk about girls. Do you mind? Okay. Ladies, I'm going to talk about you. Sometimes you're a little crazy. You cannot raise your hand and agree or not, or do anything like that. So what's the difference between your experiencing in college with girls and boys? What's the difference? Why is it so different? Ladies, are you more stressed out than you were in high school? Right? Why? Why? Yes.
In high school, if I had like a little break, I was like, okay, I can still bring it up anyway, but college I might not have.
That hurts. How many, okay, so I want to stay with the girl thing, but then I'm going to transition into the professor thing. When you talk about the girls, what happens when you're stressed? What happens to your personality? Ladies. Ladies. What did you say? Mood swings. Ladies, what happens when you're stressed? How nice are you? Right? And you know it. Okay, so isn't that just a hint that there's something going wrong that you have to change? So here's a situation, you're stressed. Somebody comes up to you and you snap at them, right? That's normal. And don't you think to yourself, but I'm right. The world is wrong, right? And that's normal, but that's you telling yourself, or your mind telling yourself, and your whole emotional state telling yourself, well, I'm a little stressed because I hate everybody right now, right? So you walk around saying, I just don't want to look at anybody. I can't stand the sight of anybody, including boys. And boys, gentlemen, young men, you have a different way of reacting. So this is the way it works. Men think in compartments. They take their brain, if you take the brain of a man and the brain of a woman, you take the brain of a man and he has little boxes, one out at a time. And that's not a bad thing. So if he's going to study for a test, he's going to pull out that little box. If he needs to run an errand, he's going to put that test box in, he's going to pull out another box. And that means he's not multitasking. The girls, ladies, and I can say this as one of your team members, it's wired. And it's sparking, and we're just keeping it, we're going, and it's like a spaghetti all mixed up together. So when we ask the gentleman to please do something more than the little box that he has pulled out, what's the reaction? Not good. It's basically, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And what's the lady's reaction? And what else? And that nice, right? So when you guys are experiencing the different emotional roller coasters of the ladies, it's because we're multitasking. And that's the way we've been trained to do. Our parents do it. So there is a difference between female and male stress. You both are going to deal with it differently. Males tend to just go to sleep. I'm taking a nap. Females tend to either go work out, exercise, eat, do something. So, okay, so you have the male-female relationship in college, which causes stress because basically it's unpredictable and you can't understand it. There's just, you're putting two worlds together. So that becomes complicated. But what about your professors? You guys have, you know, if you're going to dental school, which you're undergrad right now, so you just have to worry about your core classes. You have to understand what your professors are about. They're a little bit different than they were in high school, weren't they? So what's the biggest difference that you see with your professors now that you didn't see in high school? Okay, what are the expectations? Yeah. So you're self-disciplined, right? Okay, what else? How many of you are afraid to approach your professors? And I don't mean fear they're going to do something to you, but just that you might get a negative response. Okay. Yes. And what's the issue? Don't tell me the professor's name.
No, I just feel conscious that if we go over the system, something's going to go like the opposite way from the plan.
Okay, so your mind's telling you a story that hasn't happened yet, and you believe it because it's in your head and you trust yourself. Right? Don't trust yourself. Most of the time when we're thinking in the future, we're fabricating and trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. That causes stress. So how many of you think forward and think ahead and say, oh my goodness, and you play the whole scenario in your head? Okay. And how many times is it really that accurate? It is for you?
Oh yeah.
You guys have to date him. He's like a genius. So how is it accurate?
On time is the worst. The worst in the time.
Okay, so you're next. About dating him. He's negative. That's not the best tactic, but at least it's a survival technique, which is great. And let's talk about that. So when you have a scenario and you're planning in your head, regardless of whether you're going to approach a girl to ask her out, whether you're going to approach a guy to ask him for coffee or tea or whatever, whether you're trying to speak to a professor, whether you're trying to fix a problem, whatever problem you're trying to fix, thinking the worst is what we call coping skills. The issue that I have with that is that it creates anxiety until it happens. So you're going through a road of negativity until that happens, and then at the end of the day, your body will react to that. Keep in mind, everything you think, your body is taking in, and you're feeling it in some form or fashion. If you get a knot, how many of you experience knot in your stomachs when you get nervous? Some can't even swallow, get really stressed out. And how many of you experience headaches? Okay, these are symptoms that you really need to pay attention to. Although we kid around about hysteria. If any of you taken intro to psych? Okay, so Freud talks about hysteria. You guys remember how that came across? He saw many women as his patients, and they were showing symptoms. And women, hysterectomy, hysteria, that's how we developed the word hysterical. So what happens is that our body is actually reacting to a certain situation, and it comes out in different ways. And we just take it for granted. What do? We take an aspirin, we take something, we drink alcohol if you're over 21. Any of these things you do to try to cope, but that's not really helping. What we need to find out is what's going on, why am I feeling this way, and how can I fix it in a healthy way. Okay. One of the things we're finding out now is that what's happening now isn't affecting you now. It's 20 years down the road, and that might seem a lot for you, but it happens pretty quickly. So what we're experiencing in men is obviously heart attacks. At the age of 40 now, it used to be 50. Now they're coming to the range is 40. The percentages have dropped because of the stress. And females, Your average of a heart attack, which before was none, is now we're talking about 62% at age 45. And that's what we're experiencing because of the stress that was encountered in your 20s and 30s. So those numbers are real. When I teach my human sexuality class, I bring in a nutritionist and a biologist, and he talks to you about your body and how the effects of your body will hinder a life expectancy that should be 80 or 90. You're probably dropping it by 10 years. Okay, so we talk about humor as a great way to release stress. Stress is the overwhelming urge to choke the daylights out of someone who desperately makes you feel better if you move forward with feeling. How many of you believe that? Everybody wants to say something about it? Okay, close your eyes. Close your eyes again. Okay, so I want you to relax. I want you to see yourself stepping into this clear, beautiful, small lake. And it's nice and cool water. You can see your toes. You can feel the coolness in your feet. And you take your hands and you touch the water. And you feel your fingers tingling. Just relaxing. And just enjoying that feeling of nothing to worry about. And all of a sudden you feel something. And you grab it by the neck. And it feels great. So how was that exercise? So the joking part? Yeah. And that, my friend, is humor. You shake it out, and you let it go, and you do the unexpected, because doing the unexpected takes you out of that zone that you're in that is so tense. Whether you sit there and you do visualization, which some of you were really good at, some of you didn't do at all. But if you're good at visualization, that works. And you can see, how many of you felt the water and the coolness and were able to relax? Some of them you could see in your faces, but some of you weren't going there no matter what. So then you bring in the humor, and that tends to help. But do the unexpected. If you want to break yourself from a feeling that's disturbing to you, do the unexpected. I had one client that she was a runner, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, she would wake up every morning with panic attacks and sweating. And she was getting married, she had other issues, and these were her symptoms, 4 o'clock in the morning, clockwork. And so I said, can you go for a run? And she was like, I can't go for a run at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I go, okay, have you ever tried jump rope? And she goes, no. And I go, buy yourself a jump rope. When you feel that way, do exactly what you need to do, because you're panicking, you feel like you have to solve a problem, so you're in that fight or flight syndrome. So get it out of your system. Just get it out of your system. We need to exhaust your muscles so you can get back. And we have to shake you off that feeling. If I turn around and tell you, well, don't think about whatever you're thinking, how many times does that work? It's not going to work. You have to do something that breaks the cycle. Another client of mine drinks cold water with ice, because he usually doesn't like cold water with ice. So when he drinks cold water with ice, it just jolts his body, and it jolts him out of that feeling. You find, everyone is individual. I couldn't give you a blank slate of this is what you do, this is what you do. You really need to know yourself, and that's the key to this whole stress issue. You need to know what your triggers are, and we all have triggers, and sometimes it's a face. A face will trigger an emotion. Any of you seen someone that reminds you of someone that you don't like, and then you don't like them? Right? So those are your triggers. It could be a word, it could be a color, it could be a person. But if you don't know them, then you're just going to think it's a feeling that's happening, or that that person provoked you. It wasn't the person that provoked you, it was your mind that provoked you. So we know that there's a real definition of stress, and stress is the non-specific response of the body to any demand made upon them. What that means is you are putting demands on your body based on the way you think. First you think, then you feel. You do not feel and then think afterwards. First you think, then you feel, and then you react. What this means is that if I turn around and let's just say, I love that pink shirt, right? What 2 ways could you think? And or negative? What? Tell me someone.
Are you trying to be funny?
The what?
Are you trying to be funny?
Or picking on them, right?
Right.
Okay. So if I turn around and if you think that way, like you were crying, you said thank you. But if you go the other way and say, wow, she's mocking me because I'm wearing a pink shirt, by the way, great. I'm a breast cancer survivor, so thank you. So if that happens, then you turn around and the way you think positive leads to what? A simple thank you. That's the consequence. The way you think negative leads to what? The what? Hostility, anger, resentment. I'm never taking her class, right? That kind of thing. So the way you believe about your beliefs about the situation will create a consequence. And that's what's going on when you're feeling stressed. The way you believe about your midterms, your professors, I can't do this. This is too much. I'm overwhelmed. I'm never going to finish on time. My professor's not going to give me the grade I want. I can't find the information. All these rules that you have in your head have created the consequence of frustration and anxiety. Does that make sense? So what's the key? What are we looking at? What is it that we have to change so we don't get stressed? Yes?
Time management.
Time management is huge. How do you get it done? I can't tell you, again, based on your life cycle, but I'll tell you about me. I have 4 businesses. I'm what they call a serial entrepreneur. I teach here at Nova. I have 2 horses, 2 dogs, 2 daughters, 2 fish, 1 husband, which will cause me a lot of stress. Yes, lucky guess. I put more maintenance in the husband than I do the horses, the fish, the kids. So when people ask me, how do you do it? First of all, I love everything I do. Are they all connected? Not at all. They're totally different things. But the key is that I time manage specifically. I wake up, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, the first thing while I'm having my coffee is I write down everything I need to do and I categorize it by groups. So if you're studying, if you have to study, you have to go to class, how many things you have to do when you go to class that pertain to that class and that they're priorities. What we've forgotten is what are our priorities? And sometimes you'll have to juggle 2 or 3 different things. But the reality is that if you write it down, you don't feel so frustrated because not writing it down lets your mind create a scenario that's not real. I have too many things to do. If you write it down, you can always turn around and say, this one I'm circling because I've got to carry it over, or it's not a priority, or it was a priority when I woke up in the morning, but it's no longer a priority. Carl Jung said that what happened in the morning that seemed so important by the afternoon seemed less important, and by nighttime, it was irrelevant. So how many times do you wake up with something or an urge or something that you need to do early in the morning because you think it's really important, and when you review your day, at the end of the day, what a waste. I wasted my time worrying about something, and maybe I could have taken care of something else that I didn't. So it's really important when we talk about time management. I know I worked with some students at Tools for Success on mind mapping. Any of you heard of mind mapping? You were there with mind mapping. To me, mind mapping creates a whole picture of what you have to do, and I create a mind map, and I wish I would have had one, but I create a mind map for the entire day. And what you do is you create a circle. Let's say you just put today's date, and you put branches out of everything you have to do. And from that branch, subcategories. Super easy. Sometimes you have 3 branches, sometimes you have 10 branches, and that's what you have to do for the day. And then you say, what is it that really matters? What is it that's really important that I have to do? Time management is crucial on a daily basis. That's not even an option for those of you who think it's an option. Time management isn't an option. It's not about only the classes that are you're scheduled. If you were to write everything you do, you'd realize why you're feeling the way you do. It's interesting how we try to find out so many things about everybody else. If I ask you, tell me about your friends, and you can tell me what their personalities are like, what their behaviors are like, what they like, what their triggers are. But when I ask you about you, you have to think about it. One of the papers that I have my students write is called Allow Me to Introduce Myself to Myself. And you have to write a paper, and it's in a table of contents form, and then one paper, not an 8-page paper, one page of something about you. And I cannot tell you how difficult it is for my students to do that. They struggle. Second thing I have them do is I tell them, draw your soul. Anybody ever thought of that? Pretty scary, isn't it? How many of you went, oh, no? The interesting thing is that personality and soul are really interconnected. If I tell you what's your personality, you'll tell me your behavior. And I don't want to know what your behavior is. I know the way you act. I see it. I can tell by your body language. I want to know what's your core. Why you think the way you think is in your core. It's who you are. So if you think in a positive way, if you see yourself in a positive way, it's because that's your core. That's your soul. So when I ask students to draw their soul, I get some half black, some half white, some pink, some neon green, and then they have to explain what the colors mean and why they drew it that way. And they come in all different shapes and sizes. When we finish that intro to psych class, which is a little bit not typical, although we study everything, we find out that we have certain characteristics that we love, and we have certain characteristics that we need to change, and there's certain characteristics that we need to just monitor and take a look at, because those can sway us either way, in a dark path or a light path. And this is not about spirituality or religion. This is about who you are, because understanding that is going to change the way you feel. And the way you feel is going to change the way you react to the world and situations, specifically when it comes to stress. When you respond to stress, do you look like that? Hey, cutie pie. So is that a look of fear? Is it lack of sleep? Or are you angry and on edge? What kind of look is that? Fear? All three? What else? Any other? It could be any of them. It all depends on who you are and how you see it. So these are some common symptoms that I want you to be very aware of. I want you to, if anything, leave today with certain signals that I want you to be aware of you, of what you're feeling. Why is this going on? Why am I thinking the way I'm thinking? When you're under stress, this is something that is very real. You're irrational. It's that simple. So let's put that on the table, and that's why writing things down and the time management, thank you, is so crucial, because it allows you to refocus, to have something concrete that you can turn around and go, oh my God, I'm never going to finish this. Wait a second. Oh wow, it's only 11. I have until 4. That jolts you. That will switch what you're feeling from anxiety to calm and deep breath. Okay? So one of the things is, how many of you get sweaty palms? Anybody get clammy? Cold hands, cold feet? Okay. That's actually your stomach reacting to stress, but it affects your extremities. So if you feel any of those, that's what you're going through. Increase in blood pressure, which is misspelled. Heart rate, your breathing, butterflies in your stomach. Some people get nauseous. Some people can't eat at all. Others want to sleep. How many of you have heard this expression, which is very loosely used now in college? She's depressed. He's depressed. Depression is key. Well, the reality is that I really like that word to be taken out of the English language in the college environment, because depression is severe. It's a severe symptom and severe behavior. When you just don't feel like doing anything or you're exhausted, it's called burnout. And what I'm seeing mostly with freshmen and sophomores are you're burnt out. Once you get to be a junior and senior, you kind of get the gist of it. But freshmen, you guys, how many of you did AP classes or honors classes or dual enrollment? All these things, that's a lot on your plate. And I'm not saying not to do it, I'm saying acknowledge how hard it was and how it affected you and how it causes you to feel a little uneasy. Depression comes when you can't even get out of bed, you can't eat. It's a dark, dark, dark place. And I sincerely hope that if anybody ever sees anybody in that state, they definitely refer it to the correct people. Okay, so we're talking about headaches, muscle tension, shoulders. Okay, the shoulders, this is what you have to watch, and this is what I want you to really do a lot of stretching exercises. Changing sleep habits, moodiness, ladies and males, and specifically forgetfulness. Okay? Taking a deep breath. I want you all to stand up. Okay, so before you leave, I want you to do these exercises whenever you feel stressed, okay? I know, it's so hard to get up, isn't it? I'm so comfortable. Okay, so first thing, I want you to bring your shoulders up, all the way to your ears. Bring it up. How's that feel? Does it hurt? Now bring it down. How's that feel? Feel the difference? You guys aren't stressed. Bring it up again. Hold it, down. Feel good? Okay, now bring your arms to your back, and then just stretch back. Just stretch it. Feel that? These are, yeah, hurts. That's because you're so tense. Now, I don't know how you're going to do it, but figure it out. I'm going to leave it up to you. I want you to bend down, all the way down, as far as you can, and just hold it. Yeah, all the way down. All the way down. Come on, ladies. No cheating. Get it. Do it. I'm watching. Can you guys realize that I see you? Okay, now, this is the key. If you can't touch your toes, that means you're extremely stressed out. It has nothing to do with being out of shape. You should all be able to touch your toes. That means that your what is it, hamstrings back there? They're so tight that you can't. That's your biggest test. If you want to test how stressed you are, especially when you wake up in the morning to see if you've had a good night's sleep, if you can't do that, if you can't bend over and touch your toes because it hurts in the back, you guys didn't have a good night's sleep. So these are little tests that I want you to do just so you get connected with who you are. Take a deep breath, let it out, and go conquer the world. Have a good day.